The morning fog clung to Harlan's Hollow like a shroud, threading through the hemlock trees and settling in the low places where the creek ran cold and clear. It was the kind of fog that made a person feel watched, even when they were alone. Especially when they were alone. Delilah Crane knew this feeling better than most. At 14 years old, she had lived in darkness for nearly half her life, ever since the fever had taken her sight when she was 7. But the darkness hadn't made her helpless. If anything, it had sharpened everything else about her, until she could hear a fox moving through dry leaves 50 yards away, could smell rain coming 3 hours before the first drops fell, could feel the change in air pressure when someone entered a room. She stood on the porch of her family's cabin now, her bare feet reading the worn planks beneath her, feeling the slight give in the third board from the door that always creaked when her father came home late from checking his traps. The morning air tasted of wood smoke and coming autumn, and somewhere down the mountain, a rooster crowed its late announcement of dawn. "Delilah, child, come get your breakfast," her mother called from inside. Mary Crane's voice was tired, the way it had been ever since Delilah's father, Samuel, had taken sick last winter. He'd recovered enough to work, but the strength had never fully returned to his limbs, and the family had fallen on harder times than usual. Delilah made her way inside with practiced ease, her fingers trailing along the doorframe, counting steps, building the map in her mind that she rebuilt every day. The cabin was small, one main room with the sleeping loft above where she and her younger brother Jesse bedded down. Everything had its place, and Delilah knew that place as well as a cartographer knows his charts. "Sit now," her mother said, guiding her to the table, though Delilah didn't need guiding. It was a ritual of comfort more than necessity. "I've made Johnny cakes, and there's a bit of honey Jessie found." "Found or stole?" Delilah asked, allowing herself a small smile. "Hush now. That boy worked hard for that honey, got himself stung 6 times to prove it." Delilah ate slowly, savoring the sweetness. Honey was a luxury they couldn't often afford. As she ate, she listened to the sounds of morning. Her father coughing in the back room, Jessie stomping around in the loft above, her mother's tired movements as she cleaned the skillet. "Mama," Delilah said quietly, "the Turpins are coming today." Mary Crane's hands stopped their work. "How do you know that?" "I heard their hound baying early this morning, up on the ridge trail. That's their hunting dog. They only bring him when they're coming down to the hollow for trading." Her mother sighed. "I suppose we'll have to be hospitable then, though we've little enough to spare." The Turpin family lived 3 ridges over, and they had a reputation for shrewd dealing that bordered on thievery. Silas Turpin and his 2 sons, Ezra and Nathaniel, would trade for anything: furs, herbs, moonshine, information. But the trades were never quite fair, and folks who dealt with the Turpins often felt they'd been cheated, even if they couldn't quite say how. Sure enough, around mid-morning, Delilah heard the approach of the Turpins. She heard the heavy footfalls of the men, the lighter patter of the hound, the jingle of items in their packs. She was sitting on the porch, her hands busy with the basket she was weaving from white oak splits her father had prepared for her. "Well now, if it ain't the Crane family," Silas Turpin's voice boomed across the yard, and little Delilah working away like she can see what she's doing. Delilah didn't respond to the jab in his words. She'd learned long ago that silence was often the best response to men like Silas Turpin. "Mr. Turpin," her mother said, emerging from the cabin, "what brings you down our way?" "Trading, Mrs. Crane. Just trading. Heard your man took sick last winter. Thought you might need some things. I've got cornmeal, salt, even a little sugar if the price is right." What followed was the careful dance of mountain trading, each party trying to get the better of the other without causing offense. Delilah continued her weaving, but her attention was entirely on the negotiation. She heard her mother's hesitation, heard the slight edge of desperation that crept into her voice when Silas mentioned the salt. Salt was precious, necessary for preserving meat for the winter ahead. "I've got some ginseng root," her mother said, "and Samuel's got 3 good beaver pelts." "Let me see them pelts," Silas said. There was a long pause while he examined the furs. Delilah could hear him turning them over, could hear the skepticism he put into his breathing. "These are fair enough, I suppose. Tell you what, I'll give you 5 pounds of cornmeal and 2 pounds of salt for all 3 pelts and the ginseng." Delilah's hands stopped their weaving. That was robbery. 3 beaver pelts alone should be worth twice that much. "Mr. Turpin," her mother began, "those pelts are prime." "Prime? Ma'am, they're adequate at best, and ginseng ain't worth what it used to be. I'm being generous." Delilah heard her mother's resigned sigh. They needed the salt. They needed it badly enough to take a bad deal. "All right," her mother said quietly. Good, good. Now, I noticed you've got some nice baskets there, the ones the blind girl makes. My wife's been wanting a basket like that. How about I throw in another pound of cornmeal for one of them baskets?" Delilah felt her spine stiffen. The baskets were hers. She made them carefully, each one taking days of patient work. They were beautiful. Even she knew that from the way people responded to them, and they were worth far more than a pound of cornmeal. "Those baskets are for sale in town," her mother said. "They fetch a good price." "Town's a long walk for a family in your situation. I'm here now with cornmeal in hand." Delilah stood up, turning to face the sound of Silas Turpin's voice. "Mr. Turpin, my baskets sell for 50 cents each in town. Some go for more. That basket you're looking at took me 4 days to make. It's worth more than a pound of cornmeal." There was a moment of silence. Then Silas laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Listen to that. The blind girl's got a mouth on her. Tell you what, Missy, I'll give you 2 pounds of cornmeal for it. Final offer." "No, thank you," Delilah said firmly. "Delilah," her mother began. "Mama, no. He's cheating us enough already. The basket's not for sale." She heard Silas Turpin move closer, heard the creak of his boots, and the change in air that meant he was standing right in front of her. "Little girl, you don't want to make an enemy of me. I'm trying to help your family here." "By stealing from us." The words were out before Delilah could stop them. The silence that followed was dangerous. Delilah could feel the anger radiating off Silas Turpin like heat from a stove. "You mind your tongue, girl. You might be blind, but I can still teach you some manners." "That's enough." Samuel Crane's voice came from the doorway. Delilah heard her father's labored breathing, knew it had cost him to get out of bed. "Take your trade and go, Turpin. The basket's not included." There was more silence, tense and brittle. Then Silas spat. Delilah heard it hit the dirt and gestured to his sons. Load up the pelts and the root. We're done here." The Turpins left, but not before Silas's parting words drifted back. "You'll regret that disrespect, Crane. Mark me." That night, Delilah lay awake in the loft, listening to Jessie's soft breathing beside her. Below, she could hear her parents' worried whispers. "We shouldn't have crossed him," her mother said. "He was robbing us blind," her father replied. "What was I supposed to do? Let him take everything?" "He'll find a way to get back at us. You know how he is." Delilah stared up into the darkness that was no different from any other sight to her, and she felt something cold settle in her chest, a determination, a fury that had been building for years. Every time someone had cheated her family, every time someone had thought they could take advantage of them because her father was sick and her mother was tired and she was blind, she slept fitfully and woke before dawn to a commotion in the yard. "They're gone!" Her father's voice was anguished, angry. "All of them gone?" Delilah scrambled down from the loft, her mother already ahead of her. "What's gone?" Mary asked. "The chickens, every last one. The coop door's been left open, and they're all gone." Delilah made her way out to the yard. She could smell the chicken coop from here, could tell immediately what had happened. She moved toward it, her bare feet careful on the dewy ground. "Delilah, get back!" Her father started, but she was already at the coop, already kneeling in the dirt. Her fingers found what her eyes could not see. Tracks, boot prints. The impressions were fresh, still crisp at the edges. She traced them carefully, measuring the size, the depth, the pattern of wear. "It was the Turpins," she said quietly. "These are Ezra's boots. He's got that chunk missing from his left heel, remember? From when he caught it in a trap last year." "You can't know that just from—" her father began. "I can. It's his boots. They came in the night and took our chickens, all 12 of them. The loss was devastating. The chickens had been their source of eggs, their insurance against hunger. With winter coming, they couldn't afford to replace them." "I'll go talk to the sheriff," Samuel said, but his voice was defeated. Everyone knew the sheriff was in Silas Turpin's pocket. Delilah stood, her hands clenched into fists. The cold fury from the night before had become ice in her veins. "No," she said, "the sheriff won't do anything. The Turpins will just deny it, and there's no proof." "Then what do we do?" her mother asked helplessly. Delilah didn't answer. She walked back to the cabin, her mind working. There were stories in these mountains, old stories that people whispered about when they thought children weren't listening, stories about curses and hexes, about the old ways that people had brought from Scotland and Ireland and Germany, mixed with the older ways they'd learned from the Cherokee, who'd lived here first. Her grandmother had known those stories. More than stories. She'd known the ways themselves. Before she died, when Delilah was 12, she taught her granddaughter things. How to listen to the land, how to feel the threads of connection that tied everything together, how to speak words that carried weight beyond their sound. "You've got a gift, child," her grandmother had said. "Losing your sight opened something in you. The darkness outside let in a different kind of sight. But you be careful with it. Power like that, it comes with a price." Delilah had only half believed it then, but now, standing in the cabin with her family's desperation hanging in the air like smoke, she decided to test whether her grandmother had been telling the truth. That night, after her family slept, Delilah slipped out of the cabin. She made her way to the small family cemetery plot where her grandmother was buried, moving through the darkness as easily as most people move through light. The cicadas sang their late summer song, and somewhere an owl called. At her grandmother's grave, Delilah knelt in the grass. She reached out, placing her palms flat on the earth, feeling the coolness of it, the life that still moved beneath the surface. "Grandma," she whispered, "if you could hear me when you were alive, I figure maybe you can hear me now. You told me I had a gift. You told me the darkness gave me something. I need that something now. The Turpins stole from us. They stole our chickens, and they'll steal more if they can. They think they can do it because we're weak, because Daddy's sick, and I'm blind." She paused, gathering her thoughts, gathering her will. "You taught me words. You taught me how to tie a wish to a thread and pull it tight. I'm asking now. Help me make them pay. Help me make them see what I see every day. If they want to steal from us, let them lose what they used to steal. Let them go blind, Grandma. Let them live in the dark like me." The words hung in the air. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Delilah felt it, a response, like a hand touching hers through deep water. The earth beneath her palms seemed to pulse once, twice, 3 times. The cicadas went suddenly silent. Even the breeze stopped. Then everything rushed back, louder than before, as if the world had taken a deep breath and exhaled. Delilah stood, her heart pounding. She felt different, not changed exactly, but as if something that had been sleeping inside her had woken up. She made her way back to the cabin, climbed into the loft, and lay down beside Jessie. Sleep didn't come for a long time. When it finally did, she dreamed of darkness spreading like spilled ink, of eyes that saw nothing, of screams in the night. 3 days later, word reached the hollow that Ezra Turpin had gone blind. The news came from a traveling preacher who stopped at the Crane cabin for water. Delilah was in the yard, hanging laundry for her mother, when she heard the preacher's horse approach. "Morning to you," the preacher called. "Might I trouble you for some water? It's a powerful hot day for September." "Of course," Mary Crane said, and Delilah heard her mother go for the dipper and bucket. "Where are you coming from?" "Up past the Turpin place. Terrible thing happened there. The younger boy, Ezra, woke up 2 mornings ago and couldn't see a thing. Blind as a stone, the family says. They're beside themselves trying to figure what caused it." Delilah's hands stopped their work. The shirt she'd been hanging slipped from her fingers into the basket. "Blind," her mother said, and there was something in her voice. Surprise, yes, but also a note of suspicion. How does a healthy young man just go blind? That's what they're all wondering. Doctor came from 3 counties over, couldn't find a thing wrong with his eyes. Said they look healthy as can be, but the boy can't see nothing, not even light and dark. Silas is fit to be tied, talking about witchcraft and curses. The preacher took his water, blessed the family, and rode on. As soon as he was gone, Mary Crane turned to her daughter. "Delilah." "Yes, Mama?" "Did you have anything to do with this?" Delilah bent to retrieve the fallen shirt, buying herself time to think. She hadn't expected it to work. She'd half convinced herself the whole thing had been imagination, grief, desperation. But Ezra Turpin was blind. The one who'd stolen their chickens was blind. "I don't know what you mean," she said quietly. "Don't lie to me, child. Your grandmother taught you things. I know she did. I told her not to, but she said you had the gift, and it was wrong not to teach you to use it. Delilah straightened, turning toward her mother's voice. They stole from us, Mama. They left us with nothing for winter. Was I supposed to just let them? Oh, child, her mother's voice was torn between fear and something else. Perhaps satisfaction. What have you done? What needed doing? Witchcraft is a hanging offense. If anyone finds out, how would they find out? I went to Grandma's grave in the night. Nobody saw. And even if they suspected, what proof is there? The preacher said the doctor couldn't find anything wrong with Ezra's eyes. Her mother was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed. Your father can't know about this. It would break his heart. He's a God-fearing man. Then we won't tell him. But secrets in the mountains are like water. They find a way to seep out. 2 weeks passed. Ezra Turpin remained blind, and the Turpins remained convinced that some evil had been worked against them. Delilah went about her days, weaving her baskets, helping her mother with chores, listening to the sounds of the hollow. Then, on a cold morning with frost on the ground, Nathaniel Turpin came to the cabin. Delilah heard him approach. He made no attempt at stealth. His footsteps were heavy, angry. Jessie was out checking snares with their father, and it was just Delilah and her mother at home. Mrs. Crane, Nathaniel's shout carried across the yard. Mrs. Crane, get out here. Mary stepped onto the porch, and Delilah followed her, her heart hammering. Mr. Turpin, her mother said carefully, what brings you here? You know damn well what brings me here. Your blind daughter cursed my brother. Don't deny it. We know it was her. First my daddy crosses her. Then my brother steals some chickens. Chickens we needed worse than you mind. And then Ezra goes blind. That ain't coincidence. That's a serious accusation, Mary said, her voice shaking. Ezra's blindness is a tragedy, but my daughter had nothing to do with it. Liar, you're protecting her. The whole hollow knows your mother-in-law was a witch. She taught the blind girl her tricks. My grandmother was a healer. Delilah spoke up, stepping forward. She helped people. She delivered babies and cured fevers and... Shut your mouth, witch. You cursed my brother, and now you're going to uncurse him, or I swear. You'll swear what? Delilah's voice was cold. You'll do what, Nathaniel Turpin? You already stole from us. You left us without chickens for the winter. You took advantage of my father being sick and my mother being desperate. And now you come here making threats. Delilah, hush, her mother warned. But Delilah couldn't stop. All the rage, all the fear, all the frustration of being blind in a world that looked down on, blindness of being poor in a place where poverty was a sin, of being female in a time when women were meant to be silent. It all came pouring out. You want to know if I cursed your brother? Fine. I did. And I'll tell you something else, Nathaniel Turpin. Anyone who steals from me, anyone who takes what's mine or my family's, they'll go blind just like Ezra. You want to test it? You want to take something else from us? Go ahead. See what happens. The words seemed to echo in the cold air. Nathaniel stood frozen, his face twisted with fury and fear. You admit it, he breathed. You're a witch. You're admitting to witchcraft. I'm admitting to protecting what's mine. Now get off our land before something unfortunate happens to you too. Nathaniel stumbled backward, and Delilah realized with shock that he was actually afraid of her. This grown man, this thief, was frightened of a blind 14-year-old girl. "The sheriff will hear about this," he sputtered. "My daddy will—" "Your daddy will what? Come steal from us again. Let him try." Nathaniel left, his footsteps quick and uncertain. As soon as he was gone, Mary grabbed Delilah's arm. "What have you done? You just confessed to witchcraft." "I didn't confess to anything. I made a threat. There's a difference." "Not to folks around here, there isn't. When Nathaniel tells people what you said, they'll come for you. They'll—" Her mother's voice broke. "They'll hang you, Delilah." Delilah felt the weight of what she'd done settle over her. In her anger, she'd been foolish. She'd let pride override sense, but it was too late now. The words were spoken, and Nathaniel had heard them. "Maybe they won't believe him," she said, without much hope. "They'll believe him, especially after what happens next." "What do you mean?" Her mother's voice was grim. "You think Nathaniel came here alone? You think he walked past our woodpile, past our garden, past everything we own, and didn't take something, just to test you?" Delilah's blood went cold. Her mother was right. Nathaniel Turpin would have taken something, anything, just to see if the curse was real. They didn't have to wait long to find out. The news came the next day. Nathaniel Turpin had woken blind. This time, there was no traveling preacher to bring the news. This time, Silas Turpin himself came, riding up to the cabin with half the men from the hollow behind him. Delilah heard them coming from far off. The thunder of hooves, the jingle of bits and spurs, the murmur of angry voices. "Stay inside," her father ordered. He'd come back from checking his traps to find his wife and daughter in a state of panic. And though they tried to explain, Samuel Crane was having trouble accepting that his daughter was capable of what they described. "Daddy, you can't go out there," Delilah said. "I can and I will. This is my land, and no mob is going to threaten my family." But Samuel Crane was a sick man, weakened by illness, and when he stepped onto the porch with his old hunting rifle, he looked frail against the mounted men. "Samuel Crane," Silas Turpin's voice boomed. "Send out your daughter. Send out the witch." "There's no witch here," Samuel said, his voice steady despite his shaking hands. "Just a blind girl who's done nothing wrong. Both my sons are blind, both of them struck down after crossing your daughter. You expect us to believe that's natural? I expect you to get off my land before I put a bullet in you." There was a moment of tense silence. Then Silas laughed, cruel and cold. "You ain't got the strength to lift that rifle, let alone fire it. We all know you're half dead yourself. Now send out the girl, or we'll come in and get her." Inside the cabin, Delilah stood frozen. Her mother was crying quietly, and Jessie had climbed down from the loft, looking terrified. "I have to go out there," Delilah said. "No." Her mother grabbed her arm. "They'll kill you. They'll kill all of us if I don't. At least if I go out, maybe they'll leave you alone." "Delilah, please." But Delilah pulled away. She walked to the door, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. She'd caused this, her anger, her curse, her pride, and now she had to face it. She stepped onto the porch, and the muttering of the crowd grew louder. "There she is. The blind witch. Make her pay." Delilah turned toward the voices, toward Silas Turpin's rage. She stood straight, trying not to show their fear. "Mr. Turpin," she said, her voice carrying across the yard. "You say your sons are blind. I'm sorry for that. But I had nothing to do with it." "Liar!" Silas roared. "Nathaniel told us what you said. You admitted to cursing Ezra. You threatened to curse anyone who stole from you, and both my boys are blind." "Did Nathaniel tell you why he came to our cabin?" Delilah asked. "Did he tell you that he stole from us to test whether my words were true?" There was a murmur in the crowd. Some had known about the stolen chickens, but not all. "Did he tell you that you and your sons stole our chickens, left us with nothing for winter? Did he tell you that you cheated us on every trade, took advantage of my father's illness and my blindness?" "That's business, girl. That ain't cause for witchcraft." "And stealing isn't cause for punishment? You take, and you expect no consequences." "The only consequence is going to be a noose around your neck," Silas said. "Now come down here. We're taking you to the sheriff." Delilah knew what that meant. The sheriff would lock her up, and there'd be a trial, if she was lucky. More likely, the mob would dispense their own justice long before any trial. She was about to step off the porch when she heard it. A sound so faint that only she, with her heightened hearing, could detect it. Footsteps. Many of them. Coming from the woods around the cabin. The hollow wasn't big, but the families who lived in it were close-knit. Word had spread about what was happening, and they were coming, not to join the mob, but to stop it. "Silas Turpin!" a woman's voice rang out, sharp and clear. Martha Henderson, the midwife who lived 2 ridges over. "You put down that rope and get off Samuel Crane's land." The crowd shifted as Martha emerged from the trees, followed by a dozen other Hollow residents. Old Amos Harper, who'd lost a leg in the war. Sarah McClintock and her 3 sons. The Weber brothers. Others. "This ain't your concern, Martha," Silas said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. "It's my concern when you form a lynch mob. It's my concern when you try to hang a child for defending her family." "She's a witch. She admitted it." "She's a blind girl who got angry at thieves. My mother knew her grandmother, and I know for a fact that old woman never taught anyone witchcraft. She was a healer, nothing more." "Then how do you explain my sons?" Silas's voice was anguished now. Both of them, blind. Martha climbed onto the porch, standing beside Delilah. She put a weathered hand on the girl's shoulder. "I don't explain it," Martha said quietly. "Maybe it was God's judgment on them for thievery. Maybe it was pure chance. Maybe it was something else entirely. But I'll tell you this, hanging this girl won't give your sons their sight back. All it'll do is add murder to your sins." The crowd was wavering now. Some were nodding, some were looking ashamed. The fever that had driven them here was cooling. Silas Turpin sat on his horse, his face twisted with grief and rage. For a moment, Delilah thought he might charge the porch anyway, might try to take her by force. Then he wheeled his horse around and spat in the dirt. "This ain't over," he said. "Mark me, this ain't over." He rode off, and slowly, reluctantly, his mob followed. When they were gone, Delilah's legs gave out. She sank down on the porch steps, her whole body shaking. Martha Henderson knelt beside her. "You're a foolish girl," the midwife said, but her voice was gentle, admitting to curses, even in anger. "You're lucky I was home to hear about this." "I didn't mean," Delilah started. "Hush. What's done is done. But you listen to me now, child. I knew your grandmother. I knew what she could do, and I know she taught you some of it. But this hollow can't afford a witch, not even a pretend one. You understand me?" Delilah nodded, not trusting her voice. "Good. Now, did you really curse those boys? Delilah hesitated, then nodded again. Martha sighed. Can you undo it? I don't know. I've never tried. Then you better learn, because as long as those Turpin boys are blind, Silas will never stop coming after you, and next time I might not be here to help. Over the following weeks, Delilah tried everything she could think of to reverse what she'd done. She went to her grandmother's grave every night, speaking the words backward, trying to untie the knot she'd tied. Nothing worked. Ezra and Nathaniel Turpin remained blind, and their father remained furious. The Turpins stopped coming to the hollow entirely, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time before something broke. Delilah's reputation changed. Some people looked at her with fear now. Others avoided her entirely. A few came seeking help. If she could curse people blind, maybe she could heal other things. She turned them all away. The power she'd used felt dark and dangerous, and she wanted nothing more to do with it. But the power, it seemed, wanted something to do with her. One morning in late October, Delilah woke to find she could see. Not with her eyes, those remained as sightless as ever. But in her mind, she could perceive everything around her. She could see Jessie sleeping beside her, could see the rafters of the loft, could see the morning light coming through the cracks in the walls. It was overwhelming, terrifying, wonderful. She lay frozen, afraid to move, afraid that if she moved, this strange gift would vanish. Eventually, she climbed down from the loft, moving through a world that was suddenly visible in a way it hadn't been since she was 7 years old. Her mother gasped when she saw her. "Delilah, child, what's wrong with your eyes?" Delilah turned to the small mirror by the wash basin. Her reflection stared back, and her eyes, which had been clouded and white since the fever, were now completely black. Not just the pupils, but the entire eye, from edge to edge. "Lord have mercy," her mother whispered. "What's happened to you?" Delilah touched her face, her fingers trembling. "I can see, Mama. Not like before, but I can see." The truth of what had happened became clear over the following days. The curse hadn't just taken the Turpin's sight, it had given it to Delilah. Every person who went blind from stealing from her, their vision somehow flowed to her, adding to her perception. It should have been a gift. Instead, it felt like a theft, another sin to add to her growing collection. The winter came hard that year. Snow fell deep in the hollow, and the Crane family huddled in their cabin, surviving on what little they'd managed to put by. Delilah's baskets kept them from starving. Word had spread about the blind girl with the black eyes who could curse thieves, and people came from all over to buy her work, partly because it was beautiful, and partly because they were afraid not to. In January, a thaw came, and with it, Silas Turpin. He came alone this time, riding up to the cabin in the afternoon. Delilah sensed him before she heard him, her new sight showing her his approach. "Mr. Turpin," she called from the porch, "you're alone." Silas dismounted, moving stiffly. He'd aged years in the past months. "I'm alone," he confirmed. "I came to talk, not to fight." "Talk then." He climbed onto the porch, and for the first time, Delilah saw the man clearly, not with the black perception of her cursed sight, but with understanding. He was a father grieving for his sons. He was a man who'd made mistakes and didn't know how to fix them. "My boys," Silas said, his voice rough. "They're suffering, not just from the blindness, but from knowing why they're blind. They wake up screaming, thinking they're being punished by God. Nathaniel talks about killing himself. Delilah felt something twist in her chest. She'd wanted revenge, wanted justice, but she hadn't wanted this. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I've tried to undo it. I don't know how." "I'm not here asking you to undo it," Silas said, and his words surprised her. "I'm here to make it right." "What?" "We stole from you. We cheated you. That's what started this whole thing, so I'm here to pay you back. I've got chickens in my wagon, 15 of them, 3 more than we took. I've got cornmeal and salt and sugar, all the things I should have traded fair for. And I've got this." He pulled something from his coat, a leather purse heavy with coins. "That's $50, he said, "more than enough to pay for what we took, plus damages. I'm asking, no, I'm begging, you to take it. Not to undo the curse,